So now we go to the next step, which is applied after spray drying, agglomeration. This in Vietnamese means somehow like dính chùm các hạt sữa bột, làm cho các cái hạt bột sữa mịn á, nó dính chùm lại. Okay. Agglomeration is a process that the very fine, very small droplets of solid powder of already dry particles of milk now linked together become a larger particles. And this is applied in making instant milk powders. Instant milk powder, the term instant means that when we dissolve in water, they will get dissolved instantly, very fast, even in cold water. So it's become convenient to make liquid milk for drinking. So how they do this? Different, very small, very fine particles are combined, linked together to form a larger particles, and we call them agglomerates from this term, from agglomeration. And this is carried out by using a fluid dye bed drying machine. We call it fluid dye. The term is like that, fluid dye bed drying machine. So here now we have a very fine particle of milk powder from spray drying we just discussed in previous part. Very fine powder are introduced into the whole system because it's what fluid dye bed drying machine. And then now here we introduce here a bit steam, not a lot, small part of steam together with lecithin. Lecithin is kind of additives in food. It's actually a mixture of polylipid, from soybean, for example. And then they mix here, they introduce, and here the particle become wet on the surface, a little bit wet now on the surface. Now the surface now of the particle become wet, and when these particles become wet, so then they stick together. They stick together like this, and then they use here hot air to dry it again, because we already wet it a little bit. If we don't dry it, then the water activity will be high and this powder cannot be stored for a long time anymore. So after being wet, the particles are dried again to make dried again. But the way is that this one, the particle will jump, the particle will just mix up and jump up. It's like a flow of liquid, a kind of a flow of a liquid ingredient. So this is why we have the term, it's called fluid dye bed. And then when they jump like this, they're wet, they stick together and they get dried again. So from here you have single particle. Now here you have like the particle, but they link together in agglomerate. And then after drying, they use a cold air actually to blow up to cool the milk down. And then what do we obtain here is the milk powder. We call this agglomerated milk powder. And the very fine particle, they are still small, so the air here is strong enough to blow them up and going back to the spray drying step. Only the agglomerated particles already will move to this direction, and then we obtain the product here. So in the past, milk powder, they advise you how to dissolve it. You have to use hot water, and then you use a spoon, make milk powder and drop it down slowly, while you have to shake it with a chopstick or spoon, for example, continuously. That you have to shake, you have to rotate, you have to use hot water. That was in the past. But nowadays it's very easy to dissolve milk powder because they applied this step already, and now the powder now is agglomerated like this, so means that the water can migrate inside easily. Even you put a full spoon down, then the water can migrate inside easily and disintegrate the powder, and then the powder become dissolved very easily. But in the past, if you put the whole spoon down, it's like this because the particle is very fine. Water cannot come inside easily, but water will wet the surface. So the surface is wet, but inside, when you break it, it's still like powder inside. Very difficult to dissolve. So even nowadays, milk powder or milk powder products, they advise not to use hot water because when you use hot water, you may reduce some nutritional compounds. You may kill probiotic even. For example, they add probiotic to the powder. If you use hot water to dissolve it, then you may kill part of it, and that is not good.